The definition of conviction is a firmly held belief. Leadership looks different for each person, but every leader has strong convictions that pave the way for how they guide their people. Whether you're an experienced leader, a current leader, a novice leader, or a soon-to-be leader, this podcast is a must for you. Through this show, you will hear leaders share their convictions, the struggles they face, and the challenges they have overcome by staying true to their convictions. Leadership can be hard and it can be lonely. I aim to connect you with leaders who have walked the journey and want to show others the way. This is Beau Vincent, and you're listening to The Conviction of a Leader. Welcome back to The Conviction of a Leader. I am excited to have a good friend, Rena Gilliam, join me today on this new episode of The Conviction of a Leader. Rena, how are you today?
I'm awesome. How are you doing, Beau?
Oh, I'm doing so good, and I'm excited to introduce you to all the listeners out there who tune into The Conviction of a Leader every week. And I want to thank all of the listeners who have tuned in this week. You know, I haven't reminded you in several weeks, but just a reminder, turn on the notifications for whatever way you listen to the podcast. If it's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, turn on notifications, subscribe. Make sure to have the auto download on so that you know when the new episodes come out so you can hear from great people like Rena. Rena, I'm going to introduce you to everybody. You ready?
Awesome. Let's do it.
Okay. You're going to sound amazing because you are. So, Rena was born in Omaha, Nebraska in 1980. I don't know if I even need to say that, but geez,
Whew.
1980. You've demonstrated leadership qualities early on in life with being a captain of your high school cheerleading squad. And I know that, you know, youth sports definitely help form us in our leadership and our journey as a team member and then leading others. So you began your insurance career at age 19 with a
Yeah.
State Farm agent, by
Yep.
gaining a bunch of work experience and understanding that you wanted to stick with insurance. In 2012, you opened your current insurance agency, Scratch. Now, over
Yep.
12 years, you have expanded dramatically from scratch to 22.5 milli in the bank, a premium, which I love that. And you've become one of the largest agencies in Arkansas and a top 50 producer in your zone, which is phenomenal. Your
Thank
leadership
you.
has been characterized by many people with enthusiasm, energy, and a goal oriented approach, fostering positive and supportive work environment, which I know because I have the saying, your stage life can't be bigger than your real life. And I would tell you that your real life lives up to your stage life. You've won, I mean, countless awards, somewhere close to 20 at this point. And you've won the top of the top awards with Circle of Champions and National Summit and Leaders Forum. You became a coach with CWC. I also am a coach there. If those of you that are listening most know that, but if you're new to the podcast, I also coach with Rena, and that's how I've gotten to know her. She's happily married to Mike, her buff husband Mike, and proud and she's a proud mother of Jackson and Alexis. In her time,
Yep.
she loves to golf, which I love that, and practice Pilates.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, what did I miss? Did I hit everything? I think.
Gosh, that's a lot. Yeah, no, I think you hit everything. Maybe one thing that is it's definitely going to go along and come up in the conversation is that I live in Omaha, Nebraska now, but my agency is in the state of Arkansas, and so I actually lead from
Yeah.
remote. So I'm kind of doing the remote thing in reverse in a way.
Mm.
So that is definitely something that I've had to adapt to, especially with leading the agency remote.
No, I love that. And I've talked a lot about remote opportunities and leadership and just having remote teams because in when I was in the corporate world, I started out in person, but then I eventually went to a corporate role leading districts in different states and then regionally. So it was remote back then. I would see an employee maybe once a quarter. So I was kind of uniquely prepared for being a business owner. And when COVID came around, pushed everybody remote and left them there. But I think, having the leader remote and some people not is also a different approach. So how do
Oh,
you how do you
absolutely.
how do you build relationships with them?
I've always been really relational,
Hmm.
and I think that we've always had a consistent dialogue in the agency, whether it be over our chats or emails. We're definitely always interacting and celebrating. So, I think that when you were
Hmm.
introducing me, positivity is a huge part of my leadership, and so I have to be in front of them in order to motivate and all of those types of things. So we use chats. We use. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but we're constantly celebrating with funny memes and
Yeah.
all sorts of things inside of the office just to keep people going and making sure that we're celebrating every win and every success.
That's awesome. So, as far as a journey of leadership, let's talk about from the 19 years in insurance and then becoming an agency owner and actually starting your own agency. Let's talk about that leadership journey. Was your first time in leadership when you purchased or before? And let's talk about how that journey has grown and how you have evolved.
Yeah, so as far I was a manager in some of the agencies that I worked in when I was a sub producer under another agent.
Hmm.
But really, my leadership journey truly started when I opened up the agency. And
Nice.
it's funny because as the agency evolved, I really had to adapt, and I think that that's something that people don't um, really see. But in any organization, as the business grows, then the leader has to adapt right alongside with it.
Oh,
I think it's
yes.
sometimes happens naturally, where you start to really see that you have to change the way that you're doing things, change the way that you're interacting with your team. um, like I said, I started in Arkansas, and we ended up getting relocated in 2015. Before we got relocated, I was in the trenches. I was coming to the agency every single day, interacting with my team, both in person and outside of work. I was definitely very hands on with every single thing that came at us. I was reactive, right? I was a
Oh,
very
yeah.
reactive leader. And when I got relocated, or when we got relocated with my husband Mike's job,
Hmm.
um, I had to start thinking about, okay, how am I going to do this? Because the agency changed overnight.
Yeah.
Everything changed overnight, and so I had to really start relying on data. I had to start looking at data a little bit harder and saying, okay, I need to rely on this measurement and this measurement in order to be able to see activities that my producers were giving me. But I had to lead with a lot more trust. And I
Mm.
think that that's the biggest thing that I had to do, is I had to lead with a lot more trust, and I had to delegate a lot more than I was used to. That was
Mm.
uncomfortable. So,
Yes.
but I mean, it was a step that I had to take in order to scale.
Dude, I love that. I had an episode last year, and I don't just write episodes to write episodes, but I had a solo episode last year about having trust at the center of your leadership and how it's why
Yeah.
it's so important. And not only do you need trust from them, they need trust from you
Yeah.
in order to go far. And I think that if you've heard me say that you have to be known, liked, and trusted, and I think that people will the pinnacle or the top is trust. It starts by knowing, then liking, then trusting them. And I think that if you don't have trust, it's hard to work for somebody if you don't trust them. And it's also hard for you to leave your business to people you don't trust. So, how do you grow
Yeah.
trust? How do you build trust as a leader?
Well, so I mean, even going back to that specific circumstance, I mean,
Yeah.
we cried together, you know. I mean,
Oh,
we
yeah.
were building something that we were all very proud of.
Yeah.
And I think that that really is, you know, when you look at why people become personally invested in the work that they do every single day, it's because someone along the way or the team as a whole has developed some sort of vision together,
Mm.
and they start executing on that vision and having these wins and gains and something that they can go home and be proud of and talk to their, you know, inner circle about, and, you know, their family about what they're accomplishing. And when you start doing these things with one another as a group, I think that that fosters trust along the
Wow.
way, right?
Yeah.
So
True.
so we had already started developing a lot of that trust. It wasn't until I left that I really had to lean into that trust, right? Like it was basically like calling that trust card, right? Like, and a lot of these people are still with me. So along the way, we're incredibly proud of everything that we've been accomplishing, and we've been just executing on our vision.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that journey of how you evolved and moved and went remote and still have the trust. So, in leadership, especially because the podcast is called The Conviction of a Leader, I like to talk about others other people's convictions, what they hold strongly, their deeply held beliefs that have helped guide them, shape their interactions with their team and their leadership. So, what kind of convictions have you had as a leader?
Well, you know, so as a person,
Mm,
and I think that, you know, it starts with me as a person is,
yeah.
um, a deeply held conviction is that hard work pays off.
Ooh, I
And
like.
um, that I think that was shaped by my early childhood.
Hmm.
You know, I watched my parents work so hard, both of them, as we were growing up. We didn't come from a whole lot. We didn't come from a whole lot, and so you know, when I look at that, and when I look at my leadership style, and I look at how I structured my business as a whole, I can honestly say that like my compensation plans, my recognition, all of those things that happen inside of our agency, it's me rewarding people for hard work.
Mm,
And I think that it's bred an environment in my agency where, because it gets rewarded and because it's talked about and celebrated on,
yeah.
and not even a daily but almost an hourly basis, that we're celebrating people who are working hard and finding that success from that hard work. um,
Yeah.
that I think is probably the strongest conviction that I hold, and something that I definitely translate into leadership.
I love that. Hard work is so important, and hard work is something I've not only tried to teach um, my team, but also, you know what I've learned is it is hard. I told my kids this actually on Sunday. I specifically remember we were driving to church, but I don't know why this conversation came up. I said, I've never met an adult that I was able to help them become a really hard worker.
Yeah,
It's very hard to
right,
say, Renee, you're lazy, and now you're going to be a very hard worker. It's
right,
usually formed in childhood or late childhood, early adulthood, maybe late
right.
teens. So I was teaching my kids because my son is 15 or almost 15, and he was talking about, why do I need a job? And I'm like, if you're not actively in a sport, I think it's important for you to work hard and learn what
Yeah,
it's like to be on a team, overcome adversity, and see what it's going to be like someday out there. And that's what it led to, is that I was teaching them that not just chores around the house, but hard work in general, from working out, working at work, working at home, working on your schoolwork. It's usually taught earlier on in life. It's harder to teach
yeah,
later on in life. So I'm happy to hear that that is one of your strongest convictions. So when you work hard, it shows other people the way too, and they
right.
will replicate what the leader does. I truly believe that. So how do you You were talking about you encourage hard work. What are some of the things you do in your agency to encourage hard work? You said,
Well, like I was saying, the compensation,
yeah.
our compensation plan, it's always, and I think all of those things, how you structure the way people get the way people get paid is incredibly important. How you recruit, what types of characteristics I'm attracted to when I'm interviewing a client or a customer is super, that's what I'm looking for. A lot of the questions when I'm interviewing someone is, you know, okay, so it's the end of the month and you've only achieved 60% of your goal. What are you doing? Go,
Hmm.
and so what I'm looking for is for people who want to step up in their own lives. Like
Yeah.
I want to articulate a vision for them of, okay, here's the opportunity that I can give you. Now tell me, are you going to run through a brick wall to get it? And if they're the kind of person who would, do what it takes, understanding their why, understanding what it is that they want to accomplish, what are their hopes, what are their dreams,
Mm.
and then I'm trying to figure out, okay, are they going to be a really good fit for our team? Because they're not going to be able to come in with a lot of the culture that we've developed surrounding hard work. They're not going to be able to hang, frankly, if they don't share some of those attributes as well.
Right. And I love hearing that. And I've had this thought while you were talking about sometimes people will fight so hard to keep their job,
Oh
like
yeah.
when it's on the line, right?
Yep.
They'll work very hard at it, only when it's on the line. The
Yeah.
rest of the year, they're working at maybe gear 3 out of 5.
Right.
They have 5 gears and they aren't getting to 4 or 5 very often because they they don't have hard work bred through them, and working hard is important. So,
Yeah.
I've had employees throughout the years where when they're on a warning or write up or performance improvement plan, they work extremely hard. When they come
Yeah.
off, it tends to slow back down over time. So,
Yep.
it is good to hear that you focus on that. I'll be honest with you. I I feel like I talk about working hard but being efficient too. And like, because to me, working hard could be like I was um speaking with underwriters from our company for 2 hours, and that was hard work, but to try to figure out how to overcome, this underwriting issue so that you could write it, but also at the same time, that's not the hard work I want you to be doing right now. I want you to
Right.
actually be
Right.
calling more and
Prioritize.
quoting more and
Yeah.
prioritizing. So hard work sometimes comes out differently. And I think I have this thought of over communicating and filling in the gaps between what they think I said and actually what I say, making
Hmm.
sure that I fill it in. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
I would say too, I love that you are talking about that, Bo, is that, it's awesome when you can become a lot more efficient. You show me a way to do something in a more efficient way. I'm not one of those people that like, okay, if it's not broke, let's not fix it. If it's more efficient, we need to introduce it. We need to roll it out, right? But hard work is never going to be replaced by efficiencies, in my opinion.
Mm.
I mean, and also if we become more efficient and we have a hard work ethic, then imagine what we could accomplish,
Oh
And
man,
so I
so
think it
much.
takes both.
Oh yes, 100%. I think that, yeah, you can be very lazy when things are very efficient,
Right.
and still like get
Yeah.
pretty good results. But when things aren't going your way, or technology is down, or the process isn't working, um, hard work will make up for that.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think have hard work at problem solving too. Work hard to solve a problem, or and be solution oriented. Because I have this sick passion for yes. I hate no, but I love
Yeah.
yes. So when I hear no, I'm like, okay, why is it a no? How can we find a yes? It's like
Yep.
I just am always looking for the yes. So, which is the
Yeah.
hard work side that comes out, is like I want to find a way, and or create a way if there is no
Sure.
way right now, or do I need to change where I'm at so that I can go
Uh-huh.
find yes somewhere else. So I think leadership is also showing people that you can work hard, but you can also work hard for yourself. But showing leadership starts to show how do you work hard for other people. It's not just,
Mhm.
I'm going to work hard so you see how hard I work. No, I'm working
Right?
hard so that I can help you become the best version of you, help you grow, help you find success.
Yeah.
So, how are you showing or leading other people through example in your leadership?
Well, so,
So what are
I always like to get to know my team, and
mhm,
like I was talking about before, understanding their why. What is it that
so
they're
true.
trying to accomplish? Because my vision might be very different than what their vision is for them, and if those two things aren't aligned, then we may not be aligned, right? And
So
so
true.
I like to get to know them. I can almost guarantee that I know the names of every of all of my team members, children, spouses, because when we meet, I'm asking them, about their family,
Mm,
and I'm trying to figure out in all of those conversations how the job at my agency fits into their life. And that's important, right? Because I want them to go home and I want them to feel like, okay, my job with Rena Gilliam Insurance is either providing me with the life that I want, or it's providing me with the opportunity for the life that I want.
oh,
One of
love it.
those two things,
I
right?
love that.
Because if they're not thinking that way and they're not having conversations with their friends and their family about how their job is actually giving them something that they maybe never even dreamed that they would be able to accomplish,
Mhm.
then what are we doing?
Right.
So I really do like to talk to them about the future. A lot of agents sometimes, or a lot of business owners, they might be a little bit scared of opening up Pandora's box with talking about development with their team members because they're afraid to lose them.
Mm,
And
that's true.
I think that that's a mistake, because if you can, even if you have some of the greatest people who you don't want to lose, you're going to lose them anyway if you're not giving them a path to a brighter future. So why not have them for the time that you can have them?
Mm,
And who knows, maybe in that period of time where you're developing them for whatever it is that they're going to do, maybe your organization has grown so that there is another, position for them, or some sort of role that maybe you guys hadn't even thought about yet, where you can
yeah.
keep them on and they can still continue to progress in their own development.
Nice. I actually, part of one of the convictions that I've like developed and realized actually probably this year, which is crazy to think, but I finally like had this realization that one of my biggest convictions is actually I want to help other people find their why they
Yeah.
were created and who they are, so
Yep.
that I can help them find the best position, career, industry that fits them the best. And I
1000%.
hope it is ours in our
Yeah.
business, but also just helping people find out who they are. And I think once you realize like who you were created, what you were created to do, you can kind of do it in a lot of different avenues actually. But it's
Yeah.
more about realizing like, am I called to train others? Am I called to inspire others? Am I called to fulfill people's needs through sales? Am I called to service somebody? Am I called to make somebody feel, calm them? Am I
Yeah.
called? So understanding part of like who you are and what kind of like sets you on fire in a good way and you
Yeah.
find fulfillment from is so important as a
When,
leader.
oh, go
And
ahead. I'm
then
sorry.
for the team, no, and then for the team to find that too. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't want you to lose your thought. Go ahead.
When I first set out on my, when I first opened up my business, I thought that my goals were a lot different than they are now. I thought, like, when I first opened up my business, like,
Yeah.
I wanted to be an insurance agency owner. I was highly competitive. I still am. I mean, I'm not ever going to lose that. But
Right.
I was very competitive, and being on the top of the leaderboard was the most important thing. And as things have progressed and I've formed relationships with all of my team members, with all my team, my goals and my goal is my legacy now. And that's what we're talking about here, is like, as how can I help more people? Because what I built wasn't anything that I ever thought, taking the agency to 22.5 million, I would have never even been able to like think about doing that in 2012 when I opened up Scratch. That wasn't
It's
even on
crazy.
my radar,
No,
right?
probably
And
not. Yeah.
so now when I look at it and I look at all of the team members that are so invested in the agency, what I want to be doing is building that legacy and helping them to achieve things that they might not have ever considered were in
Yeah.
their cards.
And it sounds like you have an abundance mentality culture, which just means that you are sharing everything that you have as much as you can and showing them the way of what's possible because you achieved your dreams and some bigger
Yeah,
than you might have originally, like you said, thought of. And
anticipated.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like when I started, I only started in 2019. And when I started in 2019, I said in 10 years I'll be 10 mil. And most people were like laughing at me. And
Yep.
it's not 20 million, right? So
Right.
in 4 years I became 10 million. And I
That's
think some
awesome.
people thought, but it is, and then but things have also changed, but also my goals now have changed and evolved from that and what's possible. And having friends and people like you that have shown the way and could help me accomplish the same thing, just like Craig, like, has helped me see what was bigger, and not just bigger, but like what I could do through achieving dreams for other people. So
Yeah.
when you are happy and you're the best version of yourself, you go out of your way to give. And
Right.
that's kind of that abundance culture. And as you've grown, I'm sure you've gave more, helped people find more. So I
But
love to
that gives
hear.
me a lot
Yeah.
more joy than being at the top of a leaderboard, though, too. So, as a leader, just being able to um, discover more about myself a little, about
Yeah.
because my goals have changed, I'm actually finding more fulfillment. That's
Mhm.
one of the reasons why I enjoy coaching and why I suspect you probably do as well, is because, when I work with other agency owners and we change like just a few slight things and you see just an immediate, change in their trajectory. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would be able to do that inside of my agency because I've already, created a lot of efficiencies and processes and all of that kind of stuff. And so I don't see that immediate like whoosh,
Yeah.
like I used to perhaps, but that's I crave that, like you were talking
Mhm.
about. I crave
Yeah.
doing that. And so that's I think why my goals and things have changed and
Mhm.
evolved over time.
So what's cool, you brought a couple things up that have inspired some thoughts within me too.
Good.
One of them is I work for my legacy, not for assets, money, or material things. And
Yeah.
what's great about that is when you figure out that you're working to be a man or woman of worth that offers worth to others, to this world, I believe you do eventually find success through fulfillment. When you
Yeah.
seek to find success, I believe a lot of people will find it, but they'll lose everything in the process, themselves, their friends, and they might find money, but they'll have nobody to genuinely support them, share with them, or care about them. Most people that are left with you when you only seek success are people that care about your outward success. They don't care
Or what
about.
you can do for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So caring about legacy is like thinking like I want my kids to say my dad loved us and he taught
Yeah.
us the way, and I'm a better man because my dad was alive. I want my
Right.
staff to say because of Beau's life, it's changed generationally for my family forever
Yeah.
because of the leadership and working in his business helped change my mindset from negative to positive, helped me see that there are ways to overcome poverty and no degree and other things like that and still
Yeah.
find a level of worth and success and fulfillment in this life. And that's actually what I love the most about, coaching and leading a business is is helping other people find their level of fulfillment or
Yeah.
joy in what they do. And it's so important to me. So I love that we line up on that.
Yeah. I don't think you realize sometimes the imprint that you can make on other people's lives.
I think we
And
forget.
yeah, and I think sometimes we take that for granted
Mhm.
as leaders. But you were talking about generate. I can, you had asked me like what shaped my conviction or whatever. It's my
Mhm.
parents. Like that's the generational thing that we're talking about, and um, it doesn't have to be a parent that shapes those types of things for you. It can be a boss. It can be a temporary boss. I hope that there's people who, well, I know that there are people who are no longer a part of my team, and they're still calling me for advice, about this, that, and the other. I had one the other day that contacted me because he wanted me to take a look at a lease on a storage unit. I don't know why he did that, but hey, I'm happy to be his person. If he needs a little bit of advice, I'm happy to give that. And so I think that we can leave a big imprint not only on our customers too. We can leave a huge imprint on them, but definitely are the people that work for us and fight for our small businesses every single day.
So true. So I got a thought, and I'm taking notes too. Just if you see me typing,
Yeah,
I
me too.
always take notes. I always take notes because one, I want to make sure that I learn. I want to stay a student always. Two, I
Yep.
want to make sure if you say something great, I want to make sure we try to call it out when this episode premieres in August or September. So I shared way before I got paid, way before. So in the corporate world, when other people equal, below, above my position asked for advice, I freely gave,
Yep.
like an abundance mentality. Like now, what I've learned though over time is that when I found contentment in who I was and what I've been blessed with, it added to my self confidence to share for free without worrying that somebody would steal
Oh yeah.
my advice and make it theirs, one, or compete with me and potentially be better than me.
Mm.
And that was tough, especially in the corporate world. But now we're business owners and sharing with other business owners, especially in our own state. And I coach people local across America,
Yeah, me too.
and
Yep.
helping somebody become better in your backyard, it takes a different level of contentment, meaning like peacefulness and fulfillment that you found, and self-confidence in yourself that you should freely give and be a man or
Yeah.
woman of worth and not worry about getting paid. And eventually, now, years and years later, 2 years ago, about 2 years ago this month, I became a coach, and it's crazy. Now people pay for that, but I still give freely to those that need advice here. The podcast is 100% free, bringing on
Sure.
people like you to share advice so that we can give worth, so that this podcast is of value to
Thank
others
you for doing
without
that.
any
Yeah.
money. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what a blessing. Like I love to see the journey. I'm somebody who loves to look in the mirror, but also think about uh where I came from,
Yeah.
and just be so thankful to God for what he's blessed me with, what we've been able to
Yeah.
accomplish.
Well, you definitely give what you get what you give. And even as I'm coaching or being participating on this podcast with you, I'm learning too. And and I think it's because all of us have strengths, right? All leaders have strengths, in my opinion, and so you can draw.
Yes.
My husband's a great example of this. He is a leader over at Union Pacific Railroad, and they say opposites attract, and that is very true with he and I's relationship. And I've learned a lot from him as a leader because he's a lot more calm, collected. He's taught me to digest before I react, a lot of those types of things. So I guess what I'm getting at is that we have to share with other leaders in order to grow. Otherwise, we're going to be pigeonholed into the types of leadership styles
Yeah.
that we're just accustomed to. And I've learned so much from so many people around me, and that's the only way that I've been able to really develop maybe those leadership skills that I wasn't naturally good at. You
Oh,
know.
yeah, I understand that. So, while knowing that you've achieved so much, and I think you believe you've achieved a lot, I could see you've achieved a lot. How do you still make room and time to grow? And how important is it for you to still grow and make new goals? whether
It's
they're
funny.
size or not.
Right. I don't let grass grow under my feet.
Oh,
That's one thing is that I try. I don't waste a minute. That's just how I'm built.
mm-hmm.
I my kids used to get mad at me when they're both driving now, so they don't ride with mom that much anymore. But they used to get
Oh,
so annoyed because I would pop on a podcast when I was driving them to baseball or volleyball or whatever it was. Podcasts.
yeah.
Anytime that I can go to anytime that I can go to a conference and learn from some of the leaders and my industry, I jump at that. Just in any time that I can get in front of other people and gain exposure to maybe a thought process that I, hadn't thought of, I'm going to take that chance.
Mm.
Um, so I guess that's probably, I hope that answers your question.
Oh, yeah.
My goals, they'll always, I've got someone who pushes me, Craig. He pushes me to, if I start to, if I give him a goal and he doesn't think that it's high enough, he'll just, I can hear him now. What are we talking about here? And so I guess for me, it's always like, okay, awesome, great, what's next? If I hit this number, great, what's next?
Mm.
And just develop and make sure that I've always got a goal that's a little bit higher.
I like that. I like it. I do. So, elaborate a little bit more about not having grass under your own feet. Never heard that saying.
well, I'm not gonna allow grass to grow under my feet. Meaning, I'm not gonna stay in one place too long.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that.
So
Yes, I like that.
I'm gonna keep moving and hustling and doing what I can do to advance my career. I'm just not happy. I've never been the kind of person that's been okay just sitting down and watching a show. Like you would never
Right.
catch. I work from
Yeah.
home, but you would never catch me sitting around watching a show during work hours. It's time to get down to business, and honestly, it's because I really enjoy it.
Oh, man. So, I believe that culture actually eats vision for lunch. And a lot of people think I just set the vision on the wall and it's going to work, right?
Yeah.
No, they're just words. Your culture is actually your vision in action. So,
Hmm.
culture to me is a group of individuals that have been brought together and are moving towards a similar vision in the similar direction. Bad culture is actually where you say you have 10 employees, you have 9 people heading in the right direction, one attacking the group, saying
Oh
this
yeah.
vision
Have
sucks,
those.
or multiple different groups within that culture also can create a bad culture. Now, we
Sure.
have different divisions in our agency, right? We have the service side, I have the sales side. But
Yep.
the way that I encourage them to work together and communicate together, I don't separate them for everything. I try to include them together as much as possible because I want our culture to be great. I want them to live out our mantra. We love insurance, but we love people more. That
Yep.
starts with me. How
Yep.
do I show them that they're actually more important than what they sell, what they service, than the customer, even?
Yeah.
So I want them to know that they are my customer. That's why I work so hard is
Yeah.
for them. I want them to get to a point to where they don't worry about themselves, their paycheck, their income, their business. They're
Yep.
worried about the customer because they know I'm taking care of them. And
Yep.
that really just drives me. So let's talk about like what's your culture like? What are some of the things that are foundational visions, non-negotiables within inside of your walls?
Yeah. Well, so it's funny because when we talk about our sales producers and we're talking to
Yeah.
our sales producers about how to sell to a customer, we tell them that they need to lead with empathy, and we tell them that they need to care.
Yes.
And that's their customer. And so if we're talking about our customer being our team members, shouldn't we be doing the same thing? Shouldn't we be empathizing with them? Shouldn't we be getting to know them and making sure that making sure that they know that we really do care about them.
Oh yeah.
I can honestly, genuinely say that I care about all of my team members.
Oh yeah.
I can honestly say that. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to, lessen the things that are important inside of our agency because I care about them. I can care about them and hold them accountable at the same time, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, and they know that me holding them accountable at times is me coming, it is me caring, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
I've
yeah.
had I've terminated employees before, and they knew that I cared about them when I
Mm,
let them go. And my team knew that I cared about them and asked me how I was doing after I terminated these people. And so,
oh
I think I'll never hand something to somebody, but if somebody's working hard and doing the things that they need to do, I guess that's where it comes from me, is that
mm,
care. They know that I care, and therefore they'll work hard, and that's really where our culture is
yeah.
defined.
Yeah, I've actually I love that. You got me all inspired too from what you're saying because I created just for my own self originally, I created 3 steps of leadership. As a leader, I became started to become obsessed with like growing myself to be the best person of me so that I could help lead other people the best. It's not about
Yep.
me growing my leadership. It's really been about me growing as a person. So then I can turn into helping other people grow to be the best version of themselves. So
Yeah.
leadership was just kind of the avenue. But
Sure.
I boiled it down to 3 key leaderships, points, and teach it, lead it, and expect it. And I believe
No.
that a great leader must teach well,
Yep.
must communicate and transfer knowledge from their mind to somebody else well.
Uh-huh.
They need to retain it. The
Yep.
person that you're teaching. 2, I believe it was lead it, teach it, lead it, and expect it. Lead it is modeling leadership behavior. You must
Mm.
you must model leadership behavior that you expect or have somebody in that position that models that. And the way to check that side is to what if you could only preach what you practice?
Yep.
That's a way
Yeah.
to easily check your leadership. And the
Right.
last one is expect it. If I teach it and I lead it, I must
Mm-hmm.
expect it. But if my
Right.
handbook says this, and I don't follow through with what it says will happen, whether good or whether positive or negative, then I'm a liar. I
Right.
am a liar. I lied to you. I told
Yep.
you, I threatened you, or I wrote a handbook that said, if you do this, you'll get this bonus, and I don't deliver it. I'm a liar. If I
Right.
say, if you do this and you're going to get a write up and I don't do it, I'm a liar.
Yep.
And what happens to liars? People lose trust with them.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
you want to maintain trust, you must teach well,
Yep.
model by leading it, and then expect it. Just hold accountability to what you said you would do. It's a
Well,
very simple
absolutely.
three tenets, but I wrote this leadership academy like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I've had the pleasure of I released it with conjunction with CWC now, and it's been a lifelong dream. And it was 3 month course only on those 3 levels. Each month was a different key. And
Yep.
I'm so passionate about it because not because I wrote it, but because I feel like I found something that takes something complex like leadership and makes it actually
Boils it
uh
down a little bit.
yeah, boils
Yep.
it down into something that's a little more digestible.
Yeah.
So
I love
love it.
that. What are you without your word? Right.
Mm,
And
right?
that's your people have to know that nobody's going to want to work for somebody that they don't trust. I mean, that's what was I talking about earlier in the
Yeah.
podcast. I want them to go home, and I want them to be proud of the place that they're working. I want them to be proud of our vision and what we're accomplishing as a group, right? And so if you don't pay out a bonus, like you as your example, I mean, you're building, you're teaching something to your people, but it's not what you want them to be taught, And
Right.
so, yeah, definitely making sure that I agree with all of that 100%.
Good. I think being a leader has it could be lonely, it could be tough, it could be hard. And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people look at the leadership side. or management side of like, I want that, and they forget
Yeah.
some of the, or they don't realize some of the tough things. So tell me about
Yeah.
some of the struggles you've had to face as a leader over this long career you've had.
You know, I would say, probably one that sticks out in my mind is that I had an employee that I really saw so much potential in.
Mm,
And, I spent a great deal of time developing this person. And I started to see that there were some things that this employee was doing that were not 100% compliant.
mm,
And this was it was a long time ago. And I wouldn't say that I ignored them. I definitely didn't ignore any of these things that were going on. But I will say that my consequences for those actions were too light,
mm,
and looking back on it, it's not something that I'm proud of, and I suffered some consequences,
mm,
with that situation. In fact, I ignored some of these things that were going on, and it ended up costing me a very large bonus because I
mm.
missed the bonus from loss ratio. And what that means basically is, there were some things or conditions that were being put in the application, and it was it basically negatively impacted my book.
Oh
But
man.
but regardless, I knew that it was wrong, and it should have probably been met with like termination
Mm,
of this employee. And I think that was a hard truth for me to, figure out, is that not everybody works as hard as I do. Not everybody is as honest as I am. And I think that I gave people the benefit of the doubt a lot more than I probably should have early on. And I didn't have severe enough accountabilities for that. And so I guess I would say my advice, after my long career, or, what I've still got a ways to go, but, my advice from what I've learned thus far is that, one, individual is not worth everything that you have built and are trying to, and in the whole future of your business. And so do the right thing. You
yeah.
know what's right and wrong, and you know what you should do. And so don't put things in jeopardy when you shouldn't.
Mm. Yeah, do right for the right reasons too. And I think sometimes people will do what's right for the wrong reasons,
Right.
even because it's selfish and they really just care about themselves. Like here's an example: buying, training, CWC, or training for people to help grow them so that you make more money
Hmm.
or so that they stay. I
Right.
think when we think about them first and we think, I want to help you become the best salesperson ever, whether you stay here or not. This
Yep.
education I'm going to get you will stick with you forever as long as you can remember it.
Yeah.
It'll be with you forever. So I'm going to
Right.
give you training that goes way beyond insurance. Doesn't matter
Yep.
if you sell shoes, cars, doesn't matter.
Yep.
Houses, mortgages, you're going to be able to take this with you. So I love like thinking about that. And when I finally started to realize that, wow, I would call him a boss or a leader in the past that I felt kind of kept me down longer than he should have because it was better for him and
Yeah.
easier for him,
Yep.
because replacing me was not, I guess, the easiest task at the time.
Sure.
So holding me back was easier. So
Right.
when somebody wants to be an agency owner and leave us, instead of talking them out of it and tell them how bad of an idea it is, or you don't want to be me, it's so hard. Let's educate them. Or if
Hmm.
they, let's help them see the truths, not just tell them, because me, I hate no. Somebody tells me
Right.
I can't do something, I want to prove them wrong. Somebody tells me no, I want to go find yes. So for
Right.
me, I've learned that let me help them like see the way, the journey that we've talked about today. Like, let me
Sure.
show them that. Let me be transparent about the goods, the ups, the downs, the risks,
Yeah.
the sleepless nights that I've had, right? I've been sued. I've with no one to help me. But also I've found great success financially that I just recently that I've never found in my life. So, but not everybody makes it.
Right.
Right? So there's these things to showing them the truth and not just telling them they don't want to do something. And I think
Yeah.
that's our opinion. And I think as a leader, we should just help them see the way. And if
Yep.
that way fits their life and their fulfillment is up
Yep.
to them to decide, not us. But
Yeah.
showing them the way is where they find. Because I've had a lot of people want to start a agency and they didn't. And
Right.
I've and not because I told them no at all, because I wouldn't do that. Don't do
Right.
it. I
Well,
yeah.
I have some producers who work in my agency that they wanted to start their own agency because they felt that that was the only way that they would get the earning power that they were
Mm.
looking for.
That's that's it.
And they're making six figures now, and they are
Yes.
wildly content working inside of my agency because and not taking that step because they're a little bit uncomfortable with the risk, right?
Mm.
But if I give them the mechanism to actually get to the earning potential that they're wanting, then they adjust their dreams, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm actually happy doing this because I'm a little uncomfortable with the risk that
Mm.
this would, impose on me. So,
Well, yeah. That's so you got me thinking. That's why I love to ask why. When somebody tells me they want to do something, I say, "Why? Why do you want to be a business
yeah,
owner? Why do you want to be a sales manager? Why?" What's
right.
crazy is that it comes down to a couple of key things is most people want a little more financial freedom and time with their family.
Yeah,
So if you can offer that and
right.
help them find it, because if they're honest with themselves, it's not like so not everybody set out to want to be an entrepreneur at a young age or a business owner.
Yeah.
So by saying they want to do that, they may actually find the exact opposite of what they actually want, their why, which is
Right.
maybe more freedom, less stress, more financial freedom. You might take on a ton of debt and actually not have that financial freedom you thought as a
Mm-hmm.
business owner. Whereas and if you fail, you file bankruptcy, you lose everything. So
Right.
helping people find their actual why do you want to do something? And when I thought about it, I felt like I was called to lead others and help other
Mm-hmm.
people find their full potential. And in return, I found other things along the way that added fulfillment. But that was the key.
Yep.
And as we grow, you and I, as with our leadership and um, the impact we have. Because at one point, I went from leading nobody to leading 600 people in 3 states, 50 million of revenue, and to then all of a sudden opening an agency with 4 people.
Yeah.
So it's just, it doesn't matter how big your influence is. Leadership is a choice, always is a choice
Yep.
about putting other people first and helping them find their way. And
Absolutely. Yeah. Showing people, and that kind of goes back to that they didn't realize that they even had that dream, right?
mm,
So,
yeah,
um, I think it's important that in our industry in particular, it's changing. There's
mm,
so many things that are changing, and we're able to provide a little bit of a different because a lot of agencies they're now operating at a larger scale than they ever were before. And
mhm.
so because of that, we can create different positions and different opportunities financially that weren't there. They weren't there in the 90s. They weren't there in the early 2000s. I have an operations manager inside of my agency. That wasn't really a
Right.
role in a smaller book that was
Mm-mm.
just local. But now that agencies are expanding and kind of going statewide, there are solutions for
Hmm.
people that don't necessarily want to open up their agency.
Yeah.
So develop people. Why not? Right? Develop
Yes.
people because as you grow, you're either going to have a bigger book or you're going to have a position for them that they're satisfied with. So
So
just
true.
keep investing in your people and they'll develop and so will you.
Nice. I love that you said that. We have a director of operations too, and a sales manager, and we're kind of divided into two groups. But what's funny about that is, we didn't know anything about this. We've created them as we've grown, right? And we've
Yeah.
created positions like sales assistants, service assistants, LSP in training, LSP, senior LSP. We've
Yep.
created roles as needed because the blessing of being a business owner is you can create what you need to create when you want to create it,
Right.
when it makes sense. So I love like using my leadership, or let's call it authority, to give and help other people gain
Yep.
versus me take and I gain. And I think I found much fulfillment and love for and passion for growth of other people through that giving and watching other people like find, and achieve things that they dreamed of or maybe even thought were possible, like you said. And it's just been such a blessing. But there's a lot of people that are listening to this podcast that maybe are leaders currently, and they hold really tight onto their leadership, meaning
Mm,
like they just hold super tight
yeah.
and they don't get delegate and give up. And you talked about delegating your leadership. Why don't you elaborate about that?
A few years ago, I'll get really vulnerable here.
Hmm.
A few years ago, I was very stressed out,
Mm.
incredibly stressed out. So much so that I went and got some blood work done. My cortisol level was through the roof. And it was impacting. It was impacting my relationships. It was impacting um, my health, everything. It was impacting my life. And if I knew at that point, if I didn't delegate, if I didn't start to delegate, that I either needed to shrink or I needed to, sell.
Mm.
It was to the point where I was like, gosh, I can't continue this way. I'll definitely burn out. And
Yeah.
at the time, I made a list. I said, okay, what are the things that I feel like I could truly delegate?
Hmm.
What are the things that I take care of that I can truly delegate? And then I took that list and I picked out all of the ones that I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
So if I didn't enjoy it and I felt like I could get rid of it, that was priority number one. It's got to go.
I like it.
And it got easier. Like it was really wild because I let like one or two things go, and I'm like, well, like the agency's still fine. Like,
Mhm.
even though I let some of those things go, like the world didn't stop. Like, everything
Yeah.
is still moving in a positive direction. And in fact, I discovered that they actually formed their own systems that were sometimes better than the ones that I had. Now I had to spot check some things to make sure that it was, that the things that I was delegating were getting done properly, of course. But I just did it bit by bit. And
Yeah.
we've doubled our book since then, since that time. But I am far less stressed out today than I ever was then.
Yeah.
I was waking up in the middle of the night. I don't do that anymore. It's like, okay, the business doesn't need me to be
Hmm.
in that frantic mode in order to thrive.
Mm-mm.
It's just that I needed to find ways and
Yeah.
tasks. Okay, what are tasks that can be taught? What can I
Yeah.
automate? What
Hmm.
are certain things that I can do? And I was able to dig myself out of that for sure.
I love that. I learned a couple things too over my career. And one of them was I can delegate everything except for the vision and direction of the company.
Mm, yep,
So I learned
it's
that from
true.
a friend, uh, and actually he's been on the podcast before. But never delegate the vision or the direction. It's no longer your business then. But everything
Yep,
else you can delegate. And
yeah,
another guest was talking about delegation too, in a form of like, you should delegate around, if somebody could do it about 70% as good as you, start to delegate it then. So I have this, and that's so hard to gauge. Like, are they doing it 70%? But yes, but I have this thought process for leadership when I delegate it is actually, it's 4 steps to training. And one is I state it. It starts with state it. Two is I model it. They watch it. Three, I watch them. Four,
hmm
I evaluate it. And like, for example, I've delegated everything except for the things that I feel I'm really called to do. So what I mean, or I find fulfillment from. So I still love to recruit. I still
yep,
love to do COIs. I still love to train my leaders and I still love to role play and
Yeah.
inspire my staff. So, but the greatest part about leadership and ownership is you can find what you love the most and do
Yep.
that. And what adds the most value to your team is usually where you find the most fulfillment, not
Yep.
laziness. Don't delegate out of laziness, delegate out of the fact that you want to see somebody grow and find
Yep.
something great.
Yeah.
I love
I
seeing that.
agree. They say hire to your weaknesses, right? That's what we're talking about. It's, if you can, but you have to identify them first, right? So, but yeah, you're right, 1000%. Um, and we've done that with several leaders, and it's really funny
Yeah.
now. Now, because the agency's evolved, now I am doing a lot of development surrounding leadership.
Yeah. And
This is exactly what you're doing with this podcast.
mhm,
It's, now we're doing that instead of me, working on sales processes and any service processes inside of my agency. I'm getting in touch
mhm,
with my leaders and I'm talking to them about how to lead.
right.
And I think a big misconception about leadership is that you're there to manage. You're
Mhm,
there to, make sure that people get to work on time. And I'm. What are the consequences of them not coming, being punctual, and all of those types of things. But people become a lot more punctual, and attendance isn't a problem if they see a vision and you've got the right people. Somebody wise once said to me, "You've got to have the right people on the bus." And then everything takes care of itself,
mhm,
right? So you like recruiting, I'm sure you're looking for people that can see the vision and want to execute the
yeah,
vision, and then all those little itty bitty things you don't have to manage anymore, right?
right.
Because you've got the right people who are going to execute the vision anyway.
Right. And I just decided last week because I'm 4.5 years in now, and now I've done the 4 steps of training with my sales manager, my ops director, and now I've delegated even recruiting and hiring now to them. So because I
Yeah.
stated why we do it, how we do it, when to do it, where to do it. Then I've modeled it. They watched it.
Yep.
Now they've been doing it while I watch it, and I've evaluated it and turned it over to them now. So like I've given up things I even love and enjoy. And I hope that they understand like that is the some of the toughest things to do. But I
Yeah.
know I always gravitate towards leader and leaders. That's why I love consulting and coaching leaders and business owners. But I gravitate towards that side. So I now I'm spending, I think I've been anywhere between 10 to 15 business owners all year, and the Leadership Academy had 20. So I was
Yeah.
spending a ton of time consulting and coaching way beyond, you know, what I originally maybe thought I would. So, but
Yeah.
it's so cool because I'm able to do those things because of the delegation and the leadership of the team that we
Exactly.
have. And they don't
Exactly. And
understand
the more that you
fully.
delegate all of those types of things, the more
Mhm.
that it opens up other doors for
Yeah.
things that maybe you didn't think, like, again, things that you didn't think were possible. And so, had you not started delegating some of those things, the same with me. If hadn't
Yeah.
started delegating those tasks, I would have never been able to start coaching. And that has given me a lot of fulfillment.
Yeah.
So, that delegation was really important.
Yeah, you mentioned something too when you were referring back to me recruiting, and there's this saying I heard, and I don't know where I heard it, but I wrote it down. And when you're surrounded by people who believe, something remarkable happens. If you
Hmm.
haven't noticed, when people stop believing in you, themselves, their spouse, something bad happens. But
Yep.
when you're surrounded by people who believe, something remarkable happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes you and I are driving the belief until
Yeah.
they catch it and they catch on fire and they are like, I believe too.
Right.
And that is when something remarkable truly happens. That is when you go from 2 million to 22 million.
Right.
And you didn't see it coming and snowballing that fast. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful, and we've been blessed to lead. And you know, I want to thank you for sharing your leadership journey
Of
with
course.
me and with all the listeners.
Yeah. Thank you
What
so much for having me.
yeah, before I end, is there something else that was on your mind? Any advice that you would like to leave, or any closing remarks for our listeners out there?
I think passion is very important.
Mm.
We were talking about belief, but
Yeah.
passion is very important. And I think I consider it my responsibility to show up to my team every day and be motivated, passionate, and believe in them.
Mm.
Right. And
Love
so,
that. Yeah.
you know, I think sometimes we get caught up in the mundane,
Yeah.
okay, these are my goals. I need to break these down. This is what the company has said that I needed to do, all these types of things. But like, that's not why we started. That's not why we became
Mm-mm.
entrepreneurs. We became
Mm.
entrepreneurs because we wanted something greater. And
Yes.
so try to, you know, it's hard to get away from those day-to-day tasks, but
Absolutely.
so vital to kind of step away from that and go, okay, what am I really working toward?
So true. And just caring about people, sometimes you have to put a task to the side and just say, Renee, how are you? Are you doing
Hmm.
okay?
Yep.
Like, and it may be impromptu and it may seem like a waste of time, but I promise you this, caring about somebody is never a waste of time. Ever.
Never.
Maybe even
Never.
if you waste money, it's not a waste of time
Right.
to check on people, care about people, show them that they matter. I think that's as we're closing, I think one of the most important things in life is to feel like your life matters and where you're
Hmm.
at matters. So
Yeah.
whatever you can do as a leader to help other people feel like their life matters, their employment matters, and what they do
Yep.
matters, it will change the world. You want to talk about belief? They start to believe in themselves when you show them that you believe in them through reassuring them with not just your words but some of the tasks and delegations that you give to people that don't
Sure.
expect to be delegated, things like that.
Yeah.
So
100%.
awesome. I want
Thank
to thank
you.
you. And listen, all of the listeners out there, if you love this episode, make sure to reach out to her. Let her know how much you enjoyed this podcast, whether it's through social media, email, text if you know her. But listen, if you're listening and you love this episode, do me a favor. Once again, I'm going to ask you to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for the Conviction of a Leader wherever you're listening to. Share this with your friends, family members, and coworkers, please. And thank you. Renee, I want to thank you for coming on.
I
Means a
really
lot to
appreciate
me.
it. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Good. Me too. And I know I'll see you soon.
Yeah,
Have a
you
good day.
bet.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.